What is that? Ah, that's a code smell. But wait, what is a code smell? Ha! I'm glad you asked. Let me provide you with my personal definition and some examples so that you get an idea of what we're talking about and what a code smell is. If you try to search online, you will find at least a dozen different definitions. So I'm gonna do what every proper JavaScript developer does. Create my own framework. Well, I mean, provide my own definition. So a code smell is something that at first glance feels just wrong. The more you look at the code, the more you think that it's not right. Maybe it's working, but there's something that you can do to improve the code. The term code smell was initially introduced by Kent Beck in the 90s, but it is now quite common and widespread, and the chances are you're gonna hear it quite often. One of the reasons why it's quite difficult to give a proper definition is that there are different code smells depending on the context and on the languages. There can be a standard list of code smells that apply at the exact same way to every single language, but at least I will try to put the spotlight on the most common ones. Right after this video, you can have a look at your codebase and start finding some code smells and fix them. Stay with me until the end of the video and you'll find a bonus content. The most common is duplicate code, and you can smell this when you find yourself copy-pasting some code around. I mean, it's not strictly forbidden to copy-paste your code, but at least think about it twice. Why are you copy-pasting and not, for example, creating a function that you can call in both places? Try to think about it and find if you have a better solution to properly organize your code. I know finding this kind of solution is not always easy, even if sometimes it is, but please try to do this extra reasoning to avoid code repetition when it's not strictly required. Another real common code smell is on naming conventions and variables. Friendly reminder, you're not paying for using extra characters in your variables or function names. So I'm not saying you should use super long names like entire sentences, but at least try to not use variables with 2 or 3 characters if you can use the entire word. For example, if you're writing an index, you can use the letter I to identify the index. But if you're creating a variable that stores an account, don't just use the letter A. You can write account so that everyone else reading your code can easily find what that variable is about. Also, if there are conventions on the naming, at least try to stick to one. There are a dozen conventions depending on the language or on the context, but again, try to find one that is okay with your codebase and try to stick to the same convention throughout the entire code, so that the names are consistent. The third smell is when you notice you have too many if-else statements and most of them are nested one inside each other. In some cases, you will find yourself adding if-else just to do null checks or just to add a console log or a single line in the else branch. There's nothing wrong by itself, but take this example. Okay, the code is quite short so you can get what it does, but please look at the different version by returning early. Isn't it much cleaner and easier to understand? This is a little example just to show you what we're talking about. But try to think about your code, and if you have cases when you have 3 or 4 or even 5 levels of nesting, if you can return early and get rid of 2 or 3 levels, and also get rid of the else statements after 50 lines, the code will be way easier to read. If you're still with me after these few minutes of me giving unprofessional definitions, here's the bonus content I was mentioning in the beginning. Spotting code smells require you a little bit of practice and experience to find them at first glance. You just look at a few lines of code and you immediately have that feeling that something is just wrong. In this video I gave you 3 examples, but there are really dozens of different code smells that you can find in your journey. If you want to train this skill, you better subscribe to this channel because I post every week a video about a little mini game with the code smell where I show you the first part of the, let's say, wrong or improvable code, and then in the second part of the video I show you a possible solution. It might not be the best one, but it's there to give you an idea of what the code smell is about. Then you can find your own personal solution. Can you spell the code smell in this code? I'll give you 4 seconds. Do you see all those numeric values? They're called magic numbers. But even if the name sounds cool, they're actually something you're supposed to avoid, like black magic. The number 0.875 does not tell you anything by itself. Use constants and give them a name. You can define them in a separate file to store in a unique place all the magic numbers. Hit like and go refactor all the magic numbers in your code. You're not a wizard, Harry. What do you think? Was that interesting? Because you can find here a playlist of similar mini games, and if you're subscribed to the channel, you will see that I post one at least every week. Guess what? The playlist is called Can You Spell the Code Smell? So, leave a like on this video and go watch the playlist. See you soon!